Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Gamedev series. Uh, Slow going as usual, but at least it's happening. Um, Once again, we're back on the Fisher game, and part of the reason that this episode kind of took so long for me to make was that I started to run into some design conflict in terms of what I wanted this thing to actually play like. And what do I mean by that? So, well, do I want currently the way the game works is you have all this your mouse, you move around, you click where you want to fish, you have a bunch of buttons that pop up, you click the buttons to catch a fish, etc., etc. And as I mentioned before, I wanted there to be a player that you could move around with and kind of explore bigger areas. But that kind of led to the core of the design conflict, and I think it might be interesting to talk about this, which was in the control system. So if you're moving around with buttons, are you only using your mouse to click on those little circles as they appear? And then considering that part of the kind of ease of simplicity options to be added later is that you just catch fish without having to play those mini games at all. I start to think, well, why do you need the mouse at all? And on the other hand, if you're moving around with, WASD, you should be able to probably use WASD, or not those buttons, but some buttons to play the minigame instead, right? Going back and forth between keyboard and mouse. Obviously, you can do both at the same time in like an FPS or whatever, but I start to kind of realize there's a clash in that system. Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to use buttons for stuff like menuing and movement, but all the mini games are mouse heavy? Then you gotta think about, well, there should be some way for the mouse to interact with the menus. There should be some way for the buttons to interact with the kind of gameplay. And so that kind of stun locked me for a few minutes. I say a few minutes, a few days. And I really had to think about what I wanted. And I finally came to a decision. In that decision, I should say, is to make the game just mouse-based. I'm going to kind of try to simplify this down, and make everything in the game playable with just your mouse. And I think in the long run, that will be a good decision. That will let me focus on, settings with that. It will help drive development of future mini games for fish in other areas. So I can realize, okay, this is just mouse mechanics. And it'll be fun. So anyway, I once I kind of had that design decision behind me, I said, okay, well, how do you move with the mouse? There's a couple different ways you can go. You can like hold a button to drag around. You can, have the character just always move towards your mouse. That's not going to work here because you'll be clicking in the water. You gotta have your player not walk into the water, etc. So what I ended up doing was kind of doing like a I don't know the name for it. Kind of Dota LOL style ping system. So your right click kind of pings an area, and your little player, obviously just a little test sprite here, moves toward that area. So you can kind of ping. I've added collision, so they will not walk towards the water, walk through the water. And relatively simple pathfinding, where they won't get stuck on a wall. Like if I click, if I have my player right here and I click where my mouse is right now, they should be able to get there. I don't want them to like take a step to the left and say, oh, there's a solid, I can't move anymore. So they'll kind of, the player will kind of slide around solid objects here. A good example of this is like, okay, the player should be able to get to where I click right now. You can see that they do. So that was kind of one of the things that changed. I got this system working, got some nice little pings. I'm not going to go too complicated with like pathfinding. Like I decided if the player clicks here, I'm not going to try and like ray cast out, find which, you know, rays get the closest to the player, then repeat, do it again, find the ray that, you know, you could have a ray that goes out here, then find a ray that goes out here that gets to the closest, and then obviously you can work, you can do some stuff like that. I just decided not to, because I decided I would rather spend my time doing other things, and I don't think it will ruin the experience for you not to be able to do that. I may try to keep the camera centered even more than it is now, just because I'd like to be able to like click a little further. Anyway, so yeah, in terms of all the mouse stuff, all the NPCs are going to be clickable. There will probably be some changes to the dimensions of the screen so that you can have kind of menu icons clickable as well. So click to open up your journal, click to open up your kind of level up system and baits and fishing rod selection and all that in the future. Just so, yeah, well, that was a kind of bit of design stuff going on around there. Another thing you'll notice, we're no longer confined to one screen, which did mean almost everything had to be redone slightly. The journal used to just pop up at coordinate 0, 0. That's no longer possible. Luckily, because obviously we're moving around, luckily GameMaker has some nice GUI functions that draw based on the camera's viewpoint versus where, you know, the actual underlying coordinate system of the game. So that wasn't too bad to change. One of the other things that did change, though, you'll notice there's some water here. I haven't fully implemented this yet, but right now there are indeed two distinct bodies of water here. I have not implemented this in the journal. They're all still on one journal page. I didn't... In the future, there should be kind of clickable tabs with different options, and you should be able to get to different areas. But the idea is that... also, you can't move while fishing, obviously. You'll actually see there's one that... Oops, I should open this in an Explorer. Nerdwell Lake. This is still kind of normal. However, you can see that the clump of weeds has a weight of 0, Impossible Salmon has a weight of 0. And this one, and in this special area, Clump of Weeds has a weight of 10. Impossible Salmon has a weight of 2. So basically, we've made it so that weeds and impossible salmon you can't catch in this main area, but this second area down here, this little tiny thing, can. So if we wait for this to go, we'll go ahead and catch it. Again, right now, nothing being stopped. Nothing, nothing's distinguishing these two areas in the journal, but indeed they are distinguished in what they are, pulling from. So that also led to a slight rework of how the journal and pool systems worked. Here we've got our impossible salmon catch, and there we go. So yeah, now there's not one pool. Each body of water has its own kind of, when you click on it, if it's not the current active pool, it will, update based on whatever it should be. So we have the main lake up here and this little special area down here. After that, implementing the special area, due to how we had this spreadsheet, was as simple as copying and pasting the spreadsheet, renaming it, and just changing those values, which was really nice. We didn't have to do much in terms of that at all. Just, of course, adding variables for what pool we should be looking at and that type of deal. Yeah, so kind of relatively small update this time, but hopefully, now that we've got kind of that design contradiction sorted out, I think that will help development go smoother in the future. I'm not sure exactly what I'll tackle next time. It will either be... I probably should do, for kind of groundwork for future stuff, is kind of do a redo of the journal to actually distinguish between these two areas. And from there, the game can really open up in terms of me just designing stuff, and kind of taking a brief pause from mechanics development into actual content development, right? So that'll be interesting. But of course, we've still got a few other things to do, such as the NPCs, the level up system, which again, each fish currently already has kind of basically a currency you get every time you catch it and a currency you get the first time you catch it. Both of these will be used in different things. The gold for NPCs and find upgrades and stuff, and then the XP for a level up system and more different abilities and that type of deal. Yeah, so we're getting to kind of a cool point with this game. I'm glad we got that decision out of the way and started thinking about that stuff in the future. So thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time.